Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Okay, we're gonna hit on some random stuff that I've been thinking about. And okay, first, shout out to Sarge Willie Pete. It was good hearing his commentary on Eric Prince. That is the former Secretary of Education's brother. Um, Betsy DeVos, the former Secretary of Education, and her brother Eric Prince, who, if I'm not mistaken, was he the CEO of Blackwater, right? The paramilitary mercenaries paramilitary group. For those of you that heard what he said, it wasn't covered on mainstream media that I saw, but a bunch of black people covered it, which is essentially the recolonization of South America and Africa, of course. But of course, um, white man being white man, right? And so he spoke of essentially these people and their corrupt leaders, these nations and their corrupt leaders, and what they're doing with the resources and the money. And it's very interesting how the interviewer framed it. Right, the liberals are gonna, they're gonna say you're talking about recolonization. First of all, that's not a liberal or conservative thing. It's very interesting when, like, this is really weird when we start talking about social justice, right and wrong, morality, humanity, civil rights, and you hear the barbarist, right, talk about it like that's a liberal thing to not want to murder people, not want to colonize people, not want to turn situations into first and second class citizens, generally not being a complete a-hole, generally not being Hitler-esque is seen as a liberal thing. Huh. Imagine that. We put in left, right, political paradigms, right? We're putting that on, generally not being a not advocating for barbarism, not advocating for colonialism and white supremacy. Let's call a thing a thing. Let's call it what it is liberal. Huh. Okay. Well, I didn't say it. You did. So, um, yeah. And to Sarge Willie Pete, I say, and I hear Sarge Willie Pete. I hear his frustration. Engaging, and I've engaged with these people both online and in person. I've worked with some of these people. And Sarge is correct. They have a very basic understanding of, like, international politics, race, economics, all of it, right? They just good and evil, and yeah, and we're not even speaking about your hardcore Christians yet, right? It's just a basic understanding of these things. Sarge is correct about that, but I think Sarge doesn't fully appreciate the aspirationalism in white folks, right? So we speak about the aspirationalism in Negroes. We speak about how that causes certain Negroes to sell out even their own what would be beneficial for them, right? Their own self-interest. They sell out their immediate self-interest for this future that's probably never going to happen, of, like, them being millionaires overnight or maybe even billionaires, and now they got to pay higher taxes. Right, so that's why I call it the temporarily embarrassed millionaire. Which, by the way, I didn't come up with myself. Obviously, one of these poets or, like, authors came up with it. And I'm just using it, but it perfectly describes much of America. Right, you vote against your best self-interest now because you think one day you or one of your children is going to come up with a great invention, or they're going to win the lottery, or they're going to become an athlete, or find some way to exploit other people, and they're going to be millionaires, and so you are voting for your future best interest. Thank you. And Lithium says the quote is from John Steinbeck. I'm going to, say, and thank you, Neymar. And Neymar says Blackwater, now known as academia, right? So, um, and yeah, so I think Sarge doesn't fully. I'm not gonna say he doesn't know, because I think he gets it, but I don't think he fully appreciates the aspirationalism in white folks that causes them to still perpetuate the system that put a foot up there we're in right now. Now, is it doing to them what it's doing to black folks? No, right? But the aspirationalism Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. No enthusiasm whatsoever. I'm sorry, y'all. You just drive behind people and like that left-hander turn that you're like, okay, let's go. If we can actually this ties perfectly into the topic. We can all make it if everybody would have some enthusiasm with this light, right? But there's always somebody half-assed, somebody on their phone, somebody with no enthusiasm, and then they just slow up everybody, and then all the rest of us catch the red light because some artard in a Corolla was snoozing behind the wheel. Anyway, so yeah, I think Sarge doesn't appreciate the aspirationalism, and I want to say that I heard something once of train tracks, train tracks, train tracks. I heard something once of like white folks that weren't slave owners back during times of slavery, and like the white folks that weren't slave owners still wanted slaves, right? That was the goal. That's how you showed that you made it, right? Is by being a slave owner. And so they aspired, even though the institution of slavery literally took money out of their pockets and literally took food off of their table, the free labor literally hurt them. They still wished that they were slave owners, right? And like that type of blindness to the system, or to hell with the system, if I could get mine, if I could get my crumb, to hell with everyone else, including other white folks, right? And I think Sarge doesn't appreciate like how much white folks are willing to cut their nose to spite their face, and how much they detest the system to a certain extent, but they really wish that they were further up on the hierarchy. Their issue with the elite white folks is that elite white folks aren't holding up their end of the bargain and making sure that the white folks further down are still treated like white folks. You still got to give me enough where I can laugh in these Negroes' faces, where I could defecate on the rest of these Negroes, right? Where I could insult some Latinos, right? Especially, obviously, the more indigenous looking ones, right? Right? The problem that they're having, a lot of the working class white folks, is that the gap isn't big enough between them and black folks. Is that too many black folks with a couple of dollars are getting too uppity, right? So I really want Sarge to really consider that. I don't think he doesn't get it. I just don't think he fully appreciates that. And like I see Sarge and his attempts, his appeals to like the better nature of um um of white folks. But I think Rogan should inform me that it was Kwame Ture that pretty much said like, you, what's the point of attempting to appeal to the morality of somebody who doesn't have morality, right? And that's really something to consider. And I'm not in the business of saying whether white folks have morality or not. What I'm saying is the institution of whiteness has it has such a stranglehold on them that's just the lens that they see through, point blank period. And they're willing to hurt themselves right now for the hope that they will be standing on top of you and hurting you in the future, even more than the institution of whiteness does already. They want the game lopsided even more than it already is. And it reminds me of Richard Spencer essentially saying to Charles Barkley, and to the attorney, I think he was, that was speaking to Richard Spencer and Charles Barkley, black attorney, essentially like, yeah, we still have the reins of power now, but I don't like the tide. The tide is looking like we're going to lose grip, right? It feels like we're losing grip, and that's enough to to reposition us to hold on to the reins of power even tighter, right? And y'all excuse me, sirens, sirens, y'all excuse the background. right? So apparently there is an accident. There is an accident. Total gridlock. Okay, and we're back, right? So, you know, I just want Sarge to consider that. And you know, it's something I've seen him for the past few months. You know, especially as Sarge has gotten more into the talk about class, money, economics, the petite bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie, even you know, um, occasionally critiquing even people that were born in. Y'all give me Mr. Z 1 second again. Give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. And we're back. We're back. Right. So occasionally critiquing even petite bourgeoisie and middle class and upper middle class, definitely upper middle class black folks, and the harm they do with their rhetoric, right? And the limitations for me. Now, this is where Mr. Z puts on his lefty hat. Um, the limitations of respectability politics, right? The limitations of that, right? So, you know, as we watch this next chapter of Sarge Willie Pete, shout out to Sarge, it's going to be interesting seeing how he works with this, right? How he works with it. And y'all give Z a second again. Oh boy. I'm telling y'all, it's total pandemonium. Okay. And we're back. We're back. Okay. Yeah, let me read KW Don's comment, and thank you for the super chat, KW Don. And KW Don says the outright recolonization of Africa is is the crackers last stand. It has nothing to do with right or left. Exactly. Thank you. It's for their survival. Right. And there you go. Right. So, you know, I just I don't see them, you know, holding hands um in good faith with non-white folks, namely black folks. I just don't. It's just not gonna. It's about power, right? And like, to hell with humanity and morality and quote unquote good and right and just. To hell with that, right? And to hell with the fact that, and this is why, you know, I want us to be careful with how the white manosphere engages with um the dynamic between women and men, and how the black manosphere engages with it, right? There is a difference there, because for them it's out and out power. For them, the reason why our birth rate is going to the crapper, and I'm saying this for white men, right? The reason why our birth rate is going to the crapper is because you bitchs, y'all wanted this equality, and y'all wanted this quote unquote feminism, and now y'all not having our kids, so we can totally reign over all the unwashed masses and these Negroes and these other people of color, and but definitely the Negroes. You know, it's really the Negroes. You know, they got an issue with the Negroes, right? And I want us to really like be careful how we engage with them and their rhetoric and the angle that they're coming from, because you let the white dudes talk long enough, And for most of them, the anti-blackness is coming. It's only a matter of time. It's the same thing. I remember how I said about the sisters. You let them talk long enough, and these Negroes ain't ish, and they overlooked me when I was in high school. And why do the celebrity black men marry these exoticals and these racially ambiguous and the light skins and the right and the white women and anyone that doesn't look like a heavy set dark skinned woman with 4C curls and a wide nose? You let the sisters talk long enough. It's the same thing I'm saying with many of the white dudes. You let them talk long enough, right? And the anti-Tyrone talk is going to become even more and more prevalent. It's going to sound like anti-Tyrone and anti-Brad talk until they drop the anti-Brad and it's just anti-Tyrone. So I'm just telling y'all, like, be careful with that. And I'm tying that to Sarge Willie Pete by saying, I get his frustration. I get the anger at watching the white dudes and the white women and you know their what seems to be their limitation, right? And how they view this. I get it, Sarge. I get it. But I don't know if you really appreciate the temporarily embarrassed millionaire thought and their version of aspirationalism, right? And them truly wanting their own version of what their rich white, cousins got. So there's that. Second, I wanted to give my own critique a little bit about what Dr. Thunder covered this morning, and Anthony Brian Logan, ABL, and what he covered, the successful career woman. I understand my politics and ABL politics are different, and so I'm going to come at this a bit differently than him. There's a word that he said earlier. There's a word that ABL used when critiquing what the young lady on Earn Your Leisure was speaking about. I got my own critique, once again, as a leftist, about Earn Your Leisure and their project. I'm not going to speak about it right now, and I'm going to take care of when I speak about that and how I speak about it, right? But let's get into it. So Earn Your Leisure has a lady on, and they get into her not having children and her not being married and et cetera, and her, this is like quintessential boss girl feminist type black woman, right? From what we can see here, with less angst and less sassiness, at least what we can see here so far, than Ebony K. Williams. But she's along the same vein of Ebony K. Williams, but from what we can see, just less aggressive, less abrasive, at least from what we can see from now, for right now, better yet. And so, she speaks about, how she was a career oriented and it just wasn't on her radar. She put her career first, and that's why she doesn't have children and the equally yoked and whatnot. And ABO said something like, what should happen, right? Now, this is when the leftist in me comes in. I am not about telling black women and women in general, but black women specifically, what they should or should not be doing with their vagina, with their eggs, with their love life or marriage life or sex life. I'm about telling them, no, but you will be eating these consequences, though. I don't want to dictate to you what you should be doing, but what you don't get to do is, after you make your decision, scapegoat black men. That's what you don't get to do. So once again, I'm not about dictating to you what you should be doing, but I am about telling you, yeah, but you're not going to scapegoat black men if this doesn't work out for you. In other words, go get your degree, go be kick-ass in your career, go be that high-powered, high-paid woman, go do strange things with Brad because you're hoping that he puts a wedding ring on you, go do strange things with your white and black bosses, your Latino and Asian bosses, because you hoping you're going to be Miss Cartwright. That's okay. But on the other side of 42 and 45 and 50, when it didn't pan out for you, you don't get to scapegoat black men and call black men dusties and not on your level and be mad at the world because you feel like like the black community is not producing enough kick-ass 6'5" tall, chisel chin, six pack, 8-inch plus member Tyrone's for you, right? So I get where ABL is coming from on the should. I get where ABL is coming from when he um, compared some of the kick-ass black women to the and I did it right. Like I spoke of the when Chrissy covered it a couple years ago. If not, about a couple, well, it's a bit over a year. When Chrissy covered it, the white women that were graduating from their teaching program, I want to say, and many of them had wedding rings on or engagement rings on, and Chrissy and a number of black women were mocking those white women, and they found a way to bring black men in for some verbal abuse, right? Yeah, so let's call a thing a thing. I understand where ABL is coming from, but no, I'm not about telling black women what they should be doing. Not in mass. Maybe my old lady, maybe my sisters, maybe a girl cousin here and there, right? But black women in mass, no. Do what you want to do. Just eat those consequences. I'm about being at the church door like Martin Luther and pinning down how this is going to go, how your life is going to go if you probably don't follow a certain trajectory. And then if it go that way, then hey, I told you. Right? And that's why y'all heard Mr. Z say to before and say to Black Rule, no, just strip them of plausible deniability. Strip them of plausible. Hey, ladies, you move it like this, I'm gonna tell you how it's gonna look on the other end of that. Let them tell you don't know what you're talking about. Let them call you on top of misogynist and colorist and featurist and texturist and patriarchy and toxic black man and toxic masculinity and all of that. And then when it doesn't pan out the way they were hoping and praying and wishing and in 15, 20 years, then hey, I told you. Right? So I get where they're coming from, where women are coming from, and they want it a certain way, and it's not that way, and temper tantrum to especially black women, temper tantrum, and white women aren't told to settle, and it's not fair, and negative liberty, and yeah, right, huh? So I get it, but once again, ABL, and then you hear people, and this is my issue, right? So let me get into the this is the yeah, and I'm gonna be making fun. I'm gonna be making fun, and not too much, but a little bit. This is when the inner leftist in me says, "Yo, y'all need to cut." Like I get the respectability politics of it all. I get the conservative talking points and the family values of it all. But if y'all not going to address systemic economic issues, then to hell with what y'all talking about. You're right now, the way the economy is formed, the women are telling you, yeah, but you're not bringing enough money to the table for me to marry you in the first place. Huh? I'm not willing to give up the nice stuff and it really is do better by myself. And like, you can't get over that with a bunch of morality talk. Look at who's getting married and staying married. Look at who's getting married, and then look at who's staying married. All that respectability talk, it's not working. We can address the feminism part of the game as much as we want. Until you address the neoliberal capitalism part of the game that's causing this, then you're wasting time. You're wasting energy. You're wasting your breath. Feminism, this is the problem with feminism and that problem with feminism. Yeah, you're right. And y'all know Mr. Z is telling y'all, you're right. Yes, you're right. But about that neoliberal capitalism, though, once again, look at who's getting married and staying married. Huh? And so that's my biggest gripe with ABL. Yes. Feminism. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Distorted women's view of things. Yes, absolutely. But you're not, listen, man, y'all not going to put black women back in the kitchen. Y'all not putting women back in the kitchen, bro. Black, white, Latina, Asian, or otherwise, you're not putting them back in the kitchen. Absolutely not. Especially the kick-ass one with some money, the ones that aren't married. They aren't married, but they could bury their sorrows in a Louis Vuitton bag. Yeah, right. Have fun trying to get her back in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant. Have fun with that, right? She could bury her sorrows with a couple of vacations that cost three, $4,000, $5,000 a year. I mean, $5,000 a vacation. Yeah, nope. Have fun with that, right? And I really want ABF to think about, like, you have to be a bit more nuanced than just the conservative talking points. Yeah, what you need to do. I hear you, but certain limitations to that worldview. I'm just saying, right? Certain limitations to that worldview. So I watched Dr. Thunder's breakdown. I went and listened to ABL breakdown. As a matter of fact, I listened to when I saw Dr. Thunder was covering that. I went and listened to ABL's breakdown, and then I went back to listen to Dr. Thunder's breakdown. And like I said, I really think that there's some things that need to be considered here um, about the current environment, right? So yeah, I agree with this, Eric. And Eric Denman says, Z, nobody's trying to put any women back in the kitchen, but to be simply reasonable. That's my project when it comes to that. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And Big Kev says, bruh, I cook. These bras are just lazy, and just thank you for the super chat, right? And Lithium says, men under 43 have irreconcilable differences with each other in westernized countries, right? And Lithium says, I don't even want to work with American women in any capacity anymore. I'm checked out. I agree. I understand, better yet. I understand. Right? Right. And to that lady, like, you gotta eat that, right? You gotta eat that. And like that equally yoked thing, oh boy, man, look, to all you full of crap feminists, you full of crap heterosexual feminists, you refuse to tell. You're not doing what Anne Marie Slaughter is doing and telling women on what comes on the other side of being that kick-ass boss girl, corporate shark. The whole power couple thing is not a thing. A handful of women are going to get that. As Anne Marie Slaughter said, about 15%. All the rest of y'all got to end up with different type of dudes. Probably someone that's not as career oriented as you are, that doesn't earn as much as you do. So that equally yoked thing, translation, let's call a thing a thing, and ABL said that, and so did Dr. Thunder, which is essentially he got to earn as much or more than me. I'll settle for him if he earns as much as me, but I prefer that he earns more than me. It's not a thing. It's not. Particularly for black women, but even for white women, right? And you're watching. This is why you're watching so many some quote unquote kick ass black women, kick ass women throwing temper tantrums all over the place, particularly in the black community. As I said, if the numbers are to be believed, about 2/3 of men will never earn more than about $65,000 a year in their lifetime. So, dear women, once you start passing that, you left 2/3 of men in America. We ain't even talking about globally. You left 2/3 of men in America behind. God forbid you earn over $100,000 a year. You left, give or take, about one. You left 9 out of 10 men behind. financially at least, financially, right? And because nobody's telling the women the out and out math, what ends up happening, rest in peace, Kevin tells him the math, and you watch them blow. And I gotta cover it. I found the clip I was talking about with the sister with the chest tattoo. I'm gonna do a retroactive review of that video. And I might go through a couple of Kevin Samuels videos and do a retroactive like review of those. That might become a thing on my channel. Like maybe once a week, I do a retroactive review of a conversation he had with a young lady, or maybe older more seasoned woman, right? Because there's so much to extrapolate from these conversations, right? And so this is this is a thing. No one's telling the ladies the truth in the numbers, and so when they end up on not so much Fresh and Fit or Daily Wrap Up Crew, it really was Kevin that was pushing that, right? I'm talking about the people that are doing numbers, and you just watch the women just they can't compute. And look at this young lady. She wasn't ugly. She wasn't unattractive. But no children, never got married. Now, if you never wanted to have children or get married, that's a different conversation, right? If you never wanted to have children and you never wanted to get married, that's a different conversation. But if you had this as something you wanted to do eventually one day, right? Well, and Lion says, "Who are you talking about, Z?" Well, I'm speaking about the shout out to Dr. Thunder, and I'll link all of those things after this video in the description box. I'm speaking about Dr. Thunder's review of ABL review of Earn Your Leisure, right? So Dr. Thunder, and so Mr. Z is doing a review of what did Prince say again about them samples? Mr. Z is doing a review of a review of a review, right? So I'm speaking of Dr. Thunder's review of ABL's review of Earn Your Leisure, speaking to a black young lady who's like white collar kick ass who doesn't have any children and from my understanding never got married, and why she never got married or had children, right? And some of the things she said in that conversation, right? So um yeah, and we're gonna see a lot of that because I'm gonna hold off on see a lot of that. As of right now, we're seeing that because the people that should be informing women about what this is most likely going to mean for them in their love life and them attempting to pair bond and have children within a nuclear family and potentially stay married are not, right? That's hysterical. Better use this damn this like Inception, right? So that's what we have. Like it really is a numbers game here. But nobody's telling the women the numbers. That's the we pour over the numbers incessantly over here. Look at what I posted most recently in my community tab, right? And I've been knowing about that almost since that article dropped, right? And then I remember, I want to say Yvette Carnell bringing that article up back in like 2017, maybe 2018, and I've referenced that article in these spaces for the past 3 years. Because I remember when that article first came out, I remember, was I watching Fox News? It was either, I don't think it was CNN. It was either Fox or MSNBC. And one of the pundits referenced it. You need 20 years of essentially perfection in your life to climb out of poverty. And I think the Fox News or the MSNBC pundit that referenced it didn't reference it in like a a positive way. They referenced it in like a "this is insane," right? And so, you know, in that environment, that's where women are telling you you're not on my level, equally yoked, even if they earn a little bit of money. And by the way, like when you couple the message, right? So you have this equally yoked thing coming out. You have the mediocre insult that comes from Ebony K. Williams. You have the Shira Sevens, right? You have the Chrissies, right? You have the Lexus Exodus. You have the Cynthia G's. This very, and this is what I was saying to ABL. This very neoliberal assessment, right? This very neoliberal assessment of relationships. So yes, the feminism, absolutely, to ABL. If he ever comes up on this, ABL, you're right. Yes, the feminism. Yeah. But feminism, especially second wave feminism, plus neoliberal capitalism, plus the commodification of not just products, but of ideas and people, right? A very materialistic view of everything. You couple that together with feminism, oh my God, right? So whenever I look at, depending on where you are on the political spectrum, usually you see people making the argument, but they always miss the other half, right? You'll hear, you know, leftists speak about, yo, it's the environment and, but capitalism and neoliberal and the way to women, women got to work so hard and, they want to have children because these men are not, they're not going to be home and to take care of the kids when they don't want to fulfill their end of the bargain. Okay, I hear you, leftists. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I hear you. Right? I hear you, men like FD Signifier. Yeah, the women they want autonomy and security. Yawn. I hear you. You have the FDs on one side saying that, and then you have the ABLs on the other side. Well, it's the feminism, it's the female empowerment, and then yeah, I hear you, right? But you're not going to speak about the whole, m- lifting and allowing Reagan era, lifting and allowing advertisers to market directly to children, particularly the girls. You're not going to say nothing about that. Lifestyle branding to the girls. You're not gonna, you don't got nothing to say about that. Huh? No. You're not going to speak about tens of millions of girls who are now women being raised to view men a very specific way as walking wallets, which takes hypergamy and breaks the knob, right? So you're not. So you think you could fix this with a bucket ton of just respectability? Well, women, which you should be doing. Ooh, that word should. Ooh, that word should. I'm not going to fix the environment. Absolutely not. Not the economic environment. Nope. 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 We're going to still allow the these private equity firms to buy up all these homes and buy up literally. Rick Ross was talking about buy up the block. I think these private equity firms got you beat, right? No, we're not going to fix that, right? Okay. Yeah. We're not going to fight for unionization for the people that aren't entrepreneurs, right? That work for these different corporations and work factory jobs and etc. No. Okay. You know, so that they won't be fired for just having the wrong shoelace color on. No. Right to work states, right? Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna leave the environment precarious, right? We're going to. This is the inner leftist in me. I'm owning it. We're going to leave the environment precarious. We are going to keep women working right up until they're about to have their children. Have them go back within 3, 4, 5 weeks of them having their. So we're going to keep all of the. Mr. Z almost lost his religion. Keep all of the messed up environment, but you're going to hit women over the head with the should and what they should be doing. And then you wonder how you have Ebony K. Williams and then other women like this. I'm just saying. Right? And Charles says, no, he's not going to speak about that because he's the father of a daughter. He too caught up in the rapture to see where his who is opposite from his own feet. Okay, Charles, that last part. Grammar check. Right? Thank you, Eric. That's my point. Artificially drove up the housing inventory. If you don't address things like that, then when you address this weird form of feminism that seeks to use men as like the funders and subsidizing women without any of the power and the authority and the influence that come with that, you're only going to address that part. And then there's this whole other half of the equation that you refuse to, right? Thank you. And Charles says, and thank you, Charles. And Charles says, I'm getting really tired of this argument because either women have agency or they don't. Either they're responsible for their actions or they're not. I don't try to use plausible deniability, right? Okay, and Charles is saying, I was saying he's too caught up in the rapture, trying to raise his own daughter, that being he's too far gone to know where his head is opposite from his feet. Okay, I see what you're saying. Right? And that's something that if the goal is to slow up immigration in America, to have people have more children within nuclear family, right, where we set the rules for competition, where wealthy people don't rig the game by lying to women, working class, lower middle class, working poor women about their own empowerment, while the upper middle class, solid middle, upper middle class, and elite people still get married, oftentimes stay married. If the goal is to, hey, this is the rules of competition, this is what we're doing, we're trying to increase the population so that we don't have to bring in these immigrants that's going to be working for pennies on the dollar. If that's the goal, then you have to work towards that. And to work towards that, guess what you got to do, ABO? Admit where the problems are. And the problems aren't all leftist talk. Huh? You're going to have to go at some of these corporations, ABL. Ooh. Some of their practices, ABL. Ouch. Some of these near monopolies, ABL's monopolies. Near monopolies, ABL. The anti-labor stuff that they're doing. Oops. Huh? You're going to have to go after Jeff Bezos and say, wait a minute, how is Amazon? Wait a minute. So we got Amazon with the servers and the software, which, by the way, the U.S. government is renting server space from Amazon. Then we have or Jeff Bezos in a different type of company, but kind of still sort of kind of the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have the then we have Amazon with this near monopoly, right, with them selling products online. Then there's the weird practices that they're getting up to, right? Huh. If you're not going to go at him for that, then what are you doing? Right? I, I, I can concede that there's this weird, distorted, bizarro version of quote unquote female empowerment that seeks to put women in a infantile position while also putting them in a powerful position while also making them damsel in distress, right? Where they can flick on that switch whenever it suits them, however it suits them. I can concede that, right? But if you're on the side of the people that think corporations are people, and you don't see how that's an issue, if you don't see how corporate capture is an issue, if you don't see how wealth disparity leads to despair, leads to a lower birth rate, leads to women saying, fine, I'll do it on my own. I'll sign the Faustian bargain with the corporatists, with the wealthy person, with the corporations, and to hell with my men, to hell with the men, to hell with my men, to hell with my even son. If that means I get to have a couple of nice things. If you don't understand how this happens, then I think you lack political imagination. I think you lack the ability to actually analyze and see how all of this ties in. Right? And that's because you refuse to see this from a, oh God, I'm about to use that word again. A new you're refusing to see this as nuanced as it can be because you got to play for one team. Huh? As I said before, I'm a leftist, but I'm not dumb, right? You have to really appreciate your side and then to see the limitations that your particular ideology may have, your particular worldview, your politics may have, where the other side might have a point, right? That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying. And once again, shout out to Big Kev. Bro, cook. These bras are just lazy. And yeah, yeah. And Lithium says, get addicted to corn till you hit 100K. Buddy Boyo. Hey, look, yeah. That's yeah. That lady, what she was saying. Look, that evenly yoked thing. Right. Thank you, neighbor. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right. What's going on, AB? And I think that's what the and oh, Mr. Z, how did you forget? Look, how did you forget? Look at Z. Forget Mr. Z that had notes, and I forgot that I had the notes. Look, you're just messing up all over the place. The culture war, right? This is also the culture war. And I wanted to do a separate video about this, but then I just started talking and then I just rolled right into it. I wanted who said quintessential linchpin? I want to say it was Dr. Thunder, and I wanted to title the video that I was going to do about ABL's review, well, Dr. Thunder's review of ABL's review of Earn Your Leisure. Um, I wanted to title it the quintessential linchpin because I think it was Dr. Thunder that called it that. That called something argument that he made, and I actually might have to do a separate video on that because I think a lot of the conversation that we're having amongst black men and black women, especially like the kick-ass boss girl feminist black women, right? I think like what Dr. Thunder said has a lot to do with that, and I'm that might warrant a separate video, right? Oh, and there we go. That's why. Dr. Thunder made a comment about, and essentially posing it as a question, which is like, why are so many people starting to cover black man, black woman relationships now? And first, because the money's here, right? Because the money's here, and it's all the rage right now. Black man, black woman conversation. People thought it was too lowbrow at one point. And oh, that's where the quintessential linchpin comment came from. It is at the foundation of much of our woes. Not all of them. This is where respectability comes in. When you think it's all well, if we just get the men and the women right, and we get us together. Okay, fine. Black men and black women are now having kids and getting married in nuclear family. What about the money though? Oops. Okay, now they're getting married and now they're having kids within wedlock. Does that mean his money's gonna start going up? So the corporation that he works for, all of a sudden it's gonna start paying him more? Huh? It's not gonna try to railroad him? Fine. His wife is a stay-at-home wife. Wait a minute. Now she's not because they don't earn enough. Oops. I'm just saying, right? So once again to what Dr. Thunder posed here, um, I think a lot of people are covering this because it's all the rage online. Clickbait, it's all the rage. You see just so many comments come back down to, well, if he would do what he's supposed to do, well, if she would do what she's supposed to do. So yeah, right. And it's part of the culture war. People are being encouraged in America to point the finger at each other, especially working class, working poor, lower middle class people, instead of the elites at the top. The politicians that sign the laws, we always know that we point fingers at them occasionally, but the corporations that fund the politicians to sign the laws. And then both of those groups of people that encourage you to engage in the culture war instead of remembering, wait a minute, who's the people in power again? The rich people and the politicians. The wealthy and the politicians, right? Right? No, it is true. And Lithium says whites never vote majority Democrat, which is true. If black people don't show up for Dems, even a little, they always lose. That's my theory. No, it's not just a theory. You're right. You're right. Thank you, Neighbor. And don't forget the lobbyists. Neighbor's right. The lobbyists too. But the lobbyists work for the corporation, so they're lobbying for somebody, right? And Leon says people cover the black woman, black man convo because they can measure how bad it can get for their societies. True. Literally, y'all act like these structures don't study this psychology. Yes. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're right. Right. And Lithium, thank you again for the super chat. Thank you again. Right. So and I think it's also part of the culture war, right? And as I was saying before, you know, the inner leftist in me says they're covering this because they will use this subject to cover up the failings of neoliberal capitalism over the past few decades that was pushed by, and yes, we know it started under Carter's administration, but that was pushed by the second coming of their Jesus Christ, Ronald Reagan. And you know you can't talk bad about Ronald Reagan, right? The ABLs of the world They cover this because, hey, we got to make this. We got to always make this a feminist thing. Which, by the way, Mr. Z agrees with. Right. But if you don't speak about how, you know, Ronald Reagan and no fault divorce and right, and then let's call a thing a thing. The Democrats got such a slacking by the Republicans that Bill Clinton, who was the last stop to this neoliberal crap, said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do the third way, which is just Republican light, and repeal Glass-Steagall, ouch, Telecom Act, ouch, NAFTA, yoink." Right? I came in the door before I even heard BGS speaking about not child support, welfare and whatnot. I came in the door telling brothers to stop using welfare queen rhetoric. That's not a thing. It hasn't been a thing for like a couple decades, right? But if we're not addressing the environment as a whole, then what are we doing here, right? Huh. And what I'm saying is the hustle culture rhetoric, the hustle culture rhetoric will not be impactful on young men if you continue to produce insufferable women. If you continue to produce insufferable women, consumerist, materialistic, a-hole, delusional women when it comes to money. And by the way, everything else trickles down from that delusion when it comes to money, by the way. You can't even fully push hustle. Excuse me, I say hustle culture. I thought it was Clinton. Was it Bush Senior that signed NAFTA in 22 in 92? Because I thought excuse me, I thought Clinton signed in something similar. So yeah. Okay, so he's in Bush Senior administration. So did Clinton sign? Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you. Lithium fixed it. Thank you, Lithium. And Lithium says, so H.W. Bush pushed NAFTA. Clinton ratified it. Okay, there we go. There, Lithium fixed it for us. There we go. Right? But I was like, wait a minute, something's not squared right. Right? So I want to say also to Dr. Thunder, we drug the rest of society into covering this. The environment and the behavior of women demands that they cover it, right? That what we're speaking of in the Black manosphere needs to be addressed, right? That's why even your former first lady, right? That's why Michelle Obama, and you know she was speaking to the women, mainly Black women, young women, about torpedoing relationships over the smallest things. Like I've referenced this before. I covered it. River covered it. Yeah, we're dragging, and the environment is dragging people to cover Black woman, Black man relationship talk, and just man woman relationship talk in America because people hear how insane their daughters sound, and they mean it, by the way, right? And that's my point, Lithium. And Lithium says Clinton could have done something and he didn't. And that's my point. Clinton doubled down on Reagan and Bush Sr. So if we're to be extremely generous with Carter, he was kind of playing around with it because the economy was starting to stagnate, and so he was playing around with some of the neoliberal, right? Some of these neoliberal concepts coming from the Chicago boys and Milton Friedman, right? Testing certain things out. Reagan said, "No, we're going full on." This is where Margaret Thatcher and Reagan said, "No, this is what we about." Bush Senior being his VP, when he came in, he was like, "Okay, I guess we're just continuing this." And the person that could have from the opposite party that could have stopped this, Tony Blair in Britain and Clinton in America, both of them said, "Yeah, we're just going to continue." And I think, if I remember correctly, I think a quote from Margaret Thatcher was like, "The most successful thing the proof of my success is Tony Blair." And I'm paraphrasing, which she was pretty much saying like, Tony Blair just continued all of my policies and he's from the different party. Well, when you look at that, and so Margaret Thatcher saying that about Tony Blair is pretty much what Reagan would say about Clinton, because third way, everyone, right? Exactly, lithium. That's my point. Reagan would have said the same thing if he wasn't demented in the mid 90s, right? So that's my critique of what ABL was saying. We're never going to align politically. There's a couple of things that we probably agree on, but most anything politically we disagree on. But I think the missing piece is when you address only one half, if even that one half of what causes us to get here, without addressing what your political side of the spectrum might have contributed to how we got here and why we're still here. That's if you care to see a black community that isn't stomped into the dirt, right? And the people of color thing will be a name for, once again, people of color of just different mixes. But we all know the darker you get, the worse off it's going to be for you. So it'll be under the banner of people of color. We're just going to turn this into Brazil or any nation in Latin America. Oh, we don't see that race thing, that color thing. We don't have that over here. And then you actually go and mingle with the people, and you're like, wait a minute. The whiter, lighter people got the money and the businesses, while the darker, blacker people do not. Y'all might intermingle just a little bit sexually, but that's just about it. Maybe when Carnival comes around, maybe y'all rub elbows a little bit, rub other things a little bit. But outside of that, meh. Right? Thank you, Prodigies. Margaret Thatcher, aka There Is No Society. There is no, what she said, there is no society. Did she say community too? No, she said there is no society. There's just individuals and families. Ah, the Iron Lady, right? Just saying. And it's just something to consider for ABL. Like I said, I was going to poke a little fun, but for the most part, it's just something. Just saying. And even if you don't, even if you're going to date out, marry out, you're still going to run into this, just less severe, but you're still going to run into this. Roguish City, I reference it all the time because it sounds funny, but it's real as hell. These O's belong to the mainframe, dog. Think about what he says when he says they belong to the mainframe. Think about that, right? And who designed and, for the most part, maintains the quote unquote mainframe? right? White folks, mainly white men. So even if you date and marry out, well, right? And Eric Denman says, and thank you for the super chat. Z, all this makes for a very interesting election. Gen Z men see the BS for what it is and will stay home or not vote or vote R Republican. I agree. I agree. I think the Democrats are. I don't want us to overestimate our potential impact, but at the same time, with that, so pause. Next sentence. With that, I don't think the Democrats fully appreciate where young men are, right? I said that to y'all. I said that to my mentor when I worked for the Florida Democratic Party. I said, yeah, them Bernie bros are not going to vote for Hillary. They're not going to vote for Hillary. And after the election, believe it or not, yes, Z had a black woman tell him he was right. Yes, yo. Z had a black woman tell him he was right because I was right. And I didn't have to stress the issue neither. I didn't have to, pull teeth to get that admission. As a matter of fact, I didn't even say anything. She just randomly was like, Z, you remember what you were saying? Yeah, you were right. And I'm saying that about our environment to ABL, brother. I get it. I get it. I understand where you stand politically. I understand. But, bruh, even if the brothers do date out, even if they do marry out, if you're in America, and even, okay, fine, brothers get their passports, they get them another wife. If you're bringing her back here, if you're not staying over there in the Philippines or in Laos or in Cambodia or Brazil or Dominican Republic, if you bring her back to America, your granddaughter or your daughter or your granddaughter will just be another one of these. The environment, bro. Right? So, Prodigy said the Democrats never seem to be able to read the room. Bruh, bruh. It's infuriating. You're dealing with an election that's supposed to be a populist election, and you sabotage the populist candidate for the most establishment candidate ever just because she's a woman. And then she get a foot put her. She wins the popular vote and still gets a foot put in her ass because another woman, part of the other party, Kellyanne Conway, knows how to read the numbers for the states. The electoral college. So you win the popular vote and still get a foot put up your ass because y'all didn't read the room. Shout out to Prodigies. Kellyanne Conway read the numbers the right way. The popular vote matters. Absolutely, yes, it does. And Hillary Clinton did with the popular vote. Yes, she did. But Kellyanne Conway knew how to run up the numbers when it came to the electoral college. And there you go. Miss Alternative Facts herself. Yeah, neighbor. Too funny. Right? I'm thinking man said 32 flavors of anti-black misandry. Hysterical and accurate. Right? And so I agree with Eric. This is going to make for an interesting election. So I would rather us underplay our impact, although I think we're going to have an impact. The rhetoric is going to have an impact on the way young men think, right? But I don't want us to overplay it. On the same note, on the other side, I do think the Democrats are up for a rude awakening because I think they're overplaying the scare tactics, right? They're overplaying the scare tactics, and they have allowed for the petite bourgeoisie black people, namely black women, to drip, drip, drip certain things, if even that, towards black men that they don't really appreciate how you can't threaten young black men right now. You can't threaten young black men with Trump. First, secondly, a lot of the young black men think Trump's cool, so that's really gonna hurt. A lot of young black men think Trump is cool. They like the bravado. They love it. All that stuff y'all see as toxic masculine, they love it. I don't understand how the party of the smart people keep on losing. What did what's his name say on the first episode of the newsroom? You know what? I'm gonna link that in my community tab after this because that was a great intro to a TV series, right? What do you say? Y'all keep on winning every single what every always I can't remember how he said it, right? But it was hysterical. But so yeah, look, um, I do think they're really underestimating how much the young men just don't give a f and how cool they think Trump is, right? Especially you think about Trump pulling strings for to get the ball son out of Chinese jail, how he looked out for Kodak Black, like you right? Remember all the rappers and entertainers rapping about him and speaking positively about him until he ran for president. Then everybody want to act like they weren't, uh, right? So, right? Then everybody is tired of their purple hair, um, septum nose ring having feminist cousin during Thanksgiving dinner talking all that crap, right? Everybody's tired of it. That these colleges and universities are producing these feminist a-holes. And so, yes, let me say it for the Democrats. I'm going to say it outright. Yes, a lot of your young men and your men in general are going to vote for Trump out of spite. Absolutely. But we're the ones with the programs that's going to help them. Yeah, but they're not going to feel it like that, like that. Let's say you're right. And Lithium, I saw that comment. Yes. I ain't going to highlight it or read it out loud, but yes. Right? Right? You know? So thank you. And Lithium says still gets occasionally piped by Chad, but hates men. Right? So yeah, so ending out. Look, there's something to consider. Shout out to Dr. Thunder, ABL. Like I said, I have my whole different critique for Earn Your Leisure. I got, the inner leftist in me is like, bruh, y'all move right. So yeah, Charles said, pick a struggle. Oh man, look. They want all of it. Look, Charles, they want to be able to play all the cards. right? They want to be able to play all the cards. That's intersectionality allows for them to use that lens to excuse bad behavior, to excuse harmful rhetoric, to excuse wanting to be damsel in distress while also wanting to be white patriarch, while also wanting to be white women, while also wanting to kind of be black men, while also wanting to be, well, their position, black women, right? Look, Black Socrates, you late. I'm about to close out. Now we were speaking. I was just doing a review of a review of a review. What Ludacris said, y'all signed to a Negro, that signed to a Negro, that signed to a Negro. Plies, I said Plies. I said Plies. Wow, Prince, sacrilege. Prince said, um, so we're gonna be a sample of a sample. But no, I was reviewing Dr. Thunder's review of ABL's review of yeah, I'm being serious. I was reviewing Dr. Thunder's review of ABL's review of Earn Your Leisure speaking to a young lady, young black lady, well, not so young, but she cute chocolate sister, um, about why she never got married or had children. And so yeah. So yeah, that and I started this stream with speaking about Sarge Willie Pete, um, and his talk of he was essentially speaking about Eric Prince, Betsy DeVos's brother, and his that comment he made, essentially advocating for the recolonization of South America and Africa. And the question is, when did the colonization stop? I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure there's about 15 francophone countries that are like, yeah. I did that on purpose, y'all. The Spanish instead of French. So yeah. So yeah. Indigo said Inception. A dream of a dream of a dream of a dream. Right? So yeah. Um so that's what I spoke of, and I'm about to end out because Mr. Z got a life, and Mr. Z actually does touch grass. Oh, I'm so happy. Hey, I'm so happy. Like I can make fun of that. Like okay, y'all. I do want to, like I said, I do want to do a separate stream about Earn Your Leisure. Y'all check me out tomorrow. I should be streaming. I haven't given Toya a time yet. Me and Toya should be doing a live on her channel, most likely, where we cover what we were speaking about, hip hop and consumers. And I, whoever it was, shout yourself out. Um, where like I was saying how I appreciate Rick Ross and his beat selection, and Mr. Z being a whole hypocrite right here, super hypocrite, because look at all the stuff I just said about ABO, right? But I appreciate Rick Ross and his I call it lifestyle rap. I call what Rick Ross, Larry June, Currency, how they rap, and like even Pusha T, when if you know, you know, like if you get the references, but especially the references to like luxury items, consumerist stuff. Mr. Z listens to that a lot, right? Now, I used to engage in a lot of that stuff, which is crazy because now I could really engage in it, and I don't. When Mr. Z was broke, I used to engage in a whole lot of that, and now I could really engage in that, and I don't. Right? I know. Whole life of contradictions here. Um, but so I appreciate that type of music, um, and I appreciate the beat selection of. And I'm giving y'all this to give y'all the inspiration of how me and Toya decided to do this stream that we're supposed to be doing tomorrow, right? Um, I I appreciate Rick Ross's beat selection and him choosing instrumentals that further drive home the point of what he's rapping about, right? The beat selection and the instrumental selection that help to paint and give you that ambiance of what he's speaking of, right? So yeah, so that's how me and Toya got to where we are because I think we appreciate much of the same music, right? And so it is in like I said to y'all, like it's Maybach Music 3 and 4, and two actually 2, 3, and 4. Um, it's Pirates, right? With him and Stally. It's what it looked like, Currency and Wale. It's that type of instrumental. That what was the name of was it Devil in a New Dress? I always mispronounce it. I listen to the song so much I don't know why I always get the title wrong, right? So that type of music, right? It's Currency, Cigarette Boats, the little small not even album. I think it only had like 3 or 4 songs on it. But that type of instrumental, and there's a joint with Currency and I want to say, was it Ross's song or was it Currency's song? Let's wait a minute. We're gonna find out right now because I want to give y'all the title. Right, give me 1 second. Magello Red, right, and that instrumental is so smooth, right? So like, yeah, the Kanye joint. But Rick Ross did his own. He did his own song to that beat, and it sounded better than Kanye. I'm sorry, it sounded better than Kanye. It did. Oh, right. Hey, let people tell it. And Mr. Shook to you says Nas need Ross beat maker. And here's the thing, right? So Justice League does a lot of Ross's beats, especially for like the Maybach music series, and whatnot. But Nas got better at his beat selection, right? Oh, and y'all give Mrs. Z 1 second. And we're back. Oh yeah, and Cooler Dre produced a lot as well. Thank you, Jake. Jake. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Right. And they're good at some. Give me a second. And we're back. But yeah, so that's what inspired the stream that me and Toya are supposed to be doing tomorrow. Just wanted to give y'all a little quick update. And Toya's waiting on me actually to drop the time, but I have some errands to run with Mama Z. So let's see, right? Let's see. That's yeah, and there's that. So on that note, everyone, yeah, like I said, Mr. Z, yeah, whole ball of contradictions over here, right? Um, and we will pause right here. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content for the love of God. So y'all don't sound like this sister that that Earn Your Leisure interview that ABL covered, that Dr. Thunder covered, that I'm now covering. Santa Negro, that's Santa Negro, that's Santa Negro. A sample of a sample of a sample. Right? Yeah, so and I'll link some of the stuff that I was speaking about in the community chat. I was some of the stuff I was talking about in the community chat and in the description box here. So I'm gonna have to re-listen to this to remember what the hell I said. Yeah, that part. And on that note, y'all have a great rest of your night. And Mr. Z out. Go check out other non-Black Manosphere content so you don't sound like this lady talking about equally yoked, but she really be doing better than her financially. Yep. All right, y'all.